Carol, why do I go to the products area on your website and only see 10 product options, but you say you use a 16 seasonal system, and in some videos I've heard you say that results could be up to 22 palettes and even beyond that? Such a common question I receive, and so I'm finally going to create probably my most comprehensive video answering why I personally only recommend 10 palettes. I will never look to expand beyond 10 palettes. So to be clear, if you go to my products page on my website, it's in the color analysis kits section, and scroll down the bottom, you will see that there are 22 result option categories listed. There is a 23rd one where it's the universal palette, but out of thousands and thousands of color analysis clients who have flowed through my service from around the world, like I would put it at less than 3 ever. I've recommended the universal palette too, so let's just skip that one. The universal palette for the most part is great for putting together colors for groups of people, like for uniforms, weddings, and what have you. They won't be fully off on everybody. They won't be the best for the most part, but it won't look fully off. Here's a screenshot from the bottom of my products page, and I'm just sharing with you a couple palette categories here. So for a warm spring, I recommend a warm fabric swatch wallet with a spring add-on card. And then if you wanted to, I'm referring you to additional couple products there. And for a warm autumn, the same thing. However, I would recommend the autumn add-on card. The spring and autumn add-on cards listed here are really true spring and true autumn colors to show you where your boundaries are. I'll get to more of that in a moment. If you click the printed color strip page on my products page, you'll be taken to a site, and if you scroll to the bottom of that site, you'll actually see warm autumn and warm spring options. And so here is the warm palette option, and then here is warm spring, and this is warm autumn. I have taken the position and am not going to budge on this, that I will only recommend this swatch to people who receive a warm autumn and warm spring result from me. If you want to go here for a warm autumn or here for a warm spring, to me, it's like splitting hairs, and you have to take this one step further. You're going to be standing in a store with whatever color reference you've chosen to use. And so let's say you're warm spring, and let's just focus on, I don't know, the blues. So this one is slightly darker and a bit softer, and this one's brighter and slightly lighter, for instance. So are you really going to be standing in a store looking at a, say, blue top over here and comparing it to this reference and saying, no, that's not a fit? If you are, good luck in ever finding anything when shopping. So it's all fine and dandy in my mind to be so technical when creating references and having references, but actually putting them into practice in real life is a different thing, and you have to be practical. And here, to me, you aren't going to rule out colors. If you want to be the person over here that wants to only 100% match to these colors and don't want to say yes to any of these colors, that's where you've lost me, and I will never have a conversation with a warm spring and say to them that they shouldn't get any warm palette colors. It just won't happen, and frankly, I won't ever have a conversation about the differences between the warm palette and warm spring palette because they're so minute. You're splitting hairs, and you wearing something over here versus over here is not going to make a difference in terms of your vibrancy, in my opinion. Here's a look at the warm palette versus the true autumn palette. So let's say you were given a warm autumn result. I would recommend, if you're buying handheld references, to have the warm palette, because these are going to be in your best range. And then true autumn would sort of be, you know, where you can extend your range. So for instance, if you're standing in a store looking at tops in the red range, you'll look at, say, the True Autumn reference and your warm reference and go, okay, this one is too dark and too soft, and this one's my ideal. I can probably choose something between those. Just to know the borders of your range, or the suggested borders of your range. Now let's look at another palette set. Here is the muted palette. Here is muted summer and muted autumn. And it's, to me, the same deal. You're really splitting hairs if you're, for instance, a muted autumn and won't buy any muted palette colors. I will never have a conversation with a muted autumn around this. If they want to have a conversation around, I want 100% match to my muted autumn colors, it won't be with me, and I mean that with all due respect. You probably won't ever buy anything if you just hold your ground here. Just zooming in on the muted palette versus some of the autumn colors, and True Autumn, this would be. And so you would just look at this and know your boundaries. So for instance, let's say, let's do the blues, or actually let's do the greens. You know, there's the smoky greens at the top. You could probably go a bit more earthy and bolder, but you know, this would be stretching it. This would be your best. And so you could go somewhere between when looking at these. I'm not a fan of being so technical with color analysis references. So if you look at the fourth green above and compare it to sort of this green, you know, you would know your boundaries that way. So that's how I would look at these things. To recap, all of my color analysis clients receive a result that ultimately maps to somewhere on the undertone value and intensity scale. And I totally get this is backwards, but the set of reference options that I use and I'm going to stick to is going to be 10 palette options, and you will receive a combination of color recommendations based on those 10 palettes that ultimately map to the scales that are just up, so that you know sort of your ranges of where to stick to in the ballpark as you shop in real life. Getting too technical with references is not the way to go, in my opinion, because you will never buy anything. I've shared with you in the past, I used to work in the project management field many years ago in a corporate environment. And in the project management world, there's something called a PMP certification. It's called Project Management Professional Certification. And I'm not dissing that certification at all. It's, in my opinion, a great training program and what have you. But sometimes people got so wrapped up in the theory that I witnessed that they actually on the ground got so stuck in the theory they couldn't in real life implement projects. I'm going to suggest to you, if you're getting too technical into the labeling and details of color analysis references, that's an analogy to will never be able to buy anything out there, because ultimately you have to take these references and work within a range in the stores that you're matching these color references to. I'm going to stick to the 10 palettes that I've worked with for more than a decade. If you want to go into the details and be so exacty, matchy to the warm spring palette and not the warm palette, I'm not the one to have that conversation with, for sure. I say that with so much respect and love for you, but the 10 palettes for me have worked for more than a decade in real life implementation, and I'm gonna stick to that. Yay to sparkling in your best color range.